Welcome to the Kade Wilcox podcast. I'm Kade Wilcox, your host, and I love small business. I love the leaders who lead small businesses. I love the journey of starting a new company and figuring out how to manage people and culture and vision and operations and finances and sales and marketing. And so on our podcast, we feature local small business owners and we learn from them what's going well, what's not going well, things they've learned throughout their journey. So thanks for joining the podcast and enjoy learning from others who are in the trenches and doing the work. Rod, thanks so much for joining my podcast. I really appreciate you. It's been fun getting to know you over the last couple of months. I'm excited for my audience to hear from you. So why don't we start by you just giving a little bit of background of who you are, the work you've done in the past, and then maybe speak into the new venture that you just started and what you're doing, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. So my past is kind of varied within some sort of narrow, I guess, framework. I am actually originally went to school in Lubbock, graduated from Monterey, went to Texas Tech. My parents went to Texas Tech. I met my wife at Tech. My daughter graduated from Tech, and so I've got pretty deep roots here in the Lubbock community. But I literally, the day after I graduated from college, I moved away and didn't actually come back until this year. So along the way, I worked in Dallas, moved to Corpus Christi, then to Austin, and finally back here. I spent the better part of 30 years in advertising and marketing with a middle section in there that was heavily into strategy and operations, and worked both client side and agency side. So really it's always in that vein of building a business and growing business, but in a lot of different sort of iterations. Sometimes I struggle with the term entrepreneur because it feels like it's got a very specific definition, and it kind of locks a lot of people out as either you're the bold person that goes where no man has gone before, or you're the corporate schlep that just worked for the man your whole life. I've always felt like I had an entrepreneurial mindset, and so whether it was working for a small agency or a multi-billion-dollar company, I was always really looking for opportunities, ways to improve, trying to understand the dynamics of a business or a marketplace or a customer, and then finding how to take the ingredients that you have and maybe add some that you don't, or tweak those into a new formula that gets a better result, and then iterating over and over and over again, trying new things. So I think I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, but owning my own company wasn't really ever the end goal. I wasn't against it, and I've sort of ventured out slightly into those areas before, but I think the ending up point where I am right now was more about a logical next step and an opportunity that fit where I am in my life.
That's really cool. So maybe tell folks kind of what your business is and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I, along with a partner, bought a company here in Lubbock this past February. It's World of Lubbock. It's been here for 15 years, but it's kept a really low profile. Windows and doors seem like a really pedestrian thing at times, but there's nothing more consequential in a house than light. And having the ability to help people create a more interesting, more healthy environment and especially in a year after COVID, where people are working in their homes more and more, the ability to come into a business that does that for a living was just really exciting for me, and the opportunity was there.
That's really awesome. What are two or three things that you think you're bringing with you into this new venture that you learned along the way, serving larger companies, working in a corporate environment? Are there two or three things that you feel like you've learned over the last 15, 20, 30 years that you're bringing with you that you think is going to help you kind of on this new venture?
Yeah, actually there are, and I can come up with a few examples off the top of my head. I think one of them, and maybe the most important, is and I learned this along the way. I worked for Whataburger, and there's nothing a lot of people consider more pedestrian than flipping burgers for a living. And we had a hard time hiring and retaining people because they were embarrassed of what they did in some cases. But when you dig into it, and we understood the role that brand, and you wonder, like, why do people care about a burger place? Or why do people care about any brand? But if they do, there's some need that's being met. And what we found in this case was that, most people spend most of their life doing what other people want them to do. And the simple operational realities of the Whataburger business model was, we take your order, however you want your burger made, we're going to make it that way, and we're not going to treat you like you're in a position for doing that. We're going to bring your food to the table. We're going to come and offer you napkins. We're going to offer to get a refill for your drink, and that made people's lives actually better. We heard this from customer after customer after customer. It's like, it's the only time during the day that somebody's taking care of me and making me the center of their universe. You can't manufacture a better purpose for somebody than that, right? And so once we were able to to capture that and convey to especially current employees that what they did mattered, and that what they did was making a difference no matter how small, they were improving somebody else's life, man, like, the retention went up, our service levels went up, like every metric went up as soon as we started reframing people's jobs that way. And so I think that, replacement windows and doors it's a similar thing. It's not a really glamorous thing to think about, but when you say, when we go into this person's house, we're going to make it more energy efficient, we're going to reduce their heating bills, we're going to bring more beautiful light into their home, you just go down the line. It's going to be more secure. It's going to reduce noise pollution. And as odd as that sounds, I was out talking to a customer a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I can't believe how much road noise we didn't know we had, that we got these windows in here and we can have a conversation now. Coming in with a belief in the long-term value of marketing at every level, from the very top of the funnel, from awareness, all the way driven down to after the sale service and follow-up. That's something that people oftentimes in small businesses see as a nice to have, and I've always believed that it's a have to have. Like it's in many ways it's like the gas in the engine, right? The vast majority of what many people consider the most important initiatives never make it onto the table because people don't know what to say no to. And so the biggest issue in these organizations is not a lack of good ideas, it's a flood of good ideas, and the inability to narrow down to which are the right ideas to actually pursue. And I've lived in that world, right? I've actually seen that and seen the impacts of it. And then when you're able to narrow down and filter out and really challenge and pull on people's assumptions and say, is this really the most important thing we could be doing? And what's it going to cost? And what are we not going to be able to do if we do that? Right? That exercise will really focus an organization. And I think that's the biggest thing that I see a need for, is just everybody needs to know what's the goal? What are we aiming at? And then how do we define that in ways that everybody knows what their role is in attaining that goal? It's self-evident that you can destroy trust way faster than you can build it, right? And so the idea that every time you interact with somebody, you need to be building trust. That's a high bar, right? To do it in every interaction, but that's our goal. And so we can put metrics and measures in place to see how are we doing on that. Are people trusting what we're saying? Are we acting in a trustworthy manner? Are we keeping our word with customers? Are we telling them hard truths when they need to hear it? Are we telling ourselves hard truths? And are we receiving those truths in a spirit of love, right? If I don't care anything about whether you're successful or not, I'm just going to let you fail. I'm not going to tell you, hey, I think you could have handled that conversation better. We committed to investing for the long term and putting systems and technologies in place and pay structures and things like that would make us more successful long term, knowing that we didn't necessarily have to make money year one. It was not, let's go in and try to make this thing gangbusters year one. Let's look at year 3, year 5, year 10, and what should we invest now so we don't have to come back and try to retrofit it later. And so I think just being really thoughtful about where to invest and where to save, as obvious as that sounds, and then just planning for worst case scenario plus, and going from there.
Well, man, thanks for being on the podcast. I'm really, really excited for you. I know for me personally, starting businesses, running them, building teams, doing all these things we're talking about is really rich and rewarding. And so it'll be fun to have you back on in a year or so and say, okay, here's all the things you said, when you're 2 or 3 months into it. How do you feel now? What have you learned? What are you doing now? So I'm excited for your journey, and I'm really confident you're going to do a great job.
Well, I appreciate it, and I enjoy our conversations. I always learn whenever we get together for lunch or have a conversation, and I look forward to many more. So,
Thanks, man. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.